What happened in qualifying for the Dutch Grand Prix? And we just experienced another wet to dry qualifying. F1 really be delivering on Saturdays.
The weather gods know exactly what to do on a Saturday. Sadly not Sunday, but Saturday they seem to absolutely nail it.
Right, let's get into Q1, shall we? And it was a wet to dry quali, which meant we had chaos throughout. One of the big points that we were slightly concerned about was Piastri and Sainz. It's where Sainz was coming out of the pits. Piastri wasn't on a lap, and they both nearly collided.
I mean, after everything that's happened this weekend, if then we'd gone into qualifying and those two had collided in Q1, I genuinely think no one would ever let us speak to an F1 driver ever again.
No more driver interviews, but that didn't happen, thankfully. Who went out? Zhou, Ocon, Magnussen, Bottas and Lawson. Out of those five, Ocon.
Yeah, nightmare for Ocon.
I feel like Ocon's qualifyings, and I don't have his stats in front of me, but I don't feel like they've been very good this year.
I feel like Ocon, sometimes he'll be in the drop zone and you've gone, oh, why is Ocon down there? And then, yeah, I guess the standout performance is Monaco, where he's obviously really good, but then other times he's been absolutely terrible.
Of course, Lawson qualified 20th, actually looked at some points like he wasn't going to qualify last. I just think perhaps he didn't execute on his final lap where, again, the track was ramping up. But I would say, fair play. Probably the hardest time to jump into a car. I don't think there are worse conditions that you could have put a driver in. Changeable, slippery, changing tyres.
When we looked out the window just before qualifying, it was apocalyptic rain. I mean, if you're Liam Lawson looking out the window, you're just like, oh God, could this be any more difficult?
Question from @Rosa Claver. Is a better place than P20 possible and realistic for Liam Lawson? I mean, it's possible if he doesn't crash, because I feel like there might be a few mistakes tomorrow that will go against your crazy prediction, Tommy, where you said all cars will be classified. But when we look at the weather that's potentially coming, it looks similar to what we've experienced today. I think Liam just needs to keep it on the black stuff tomorrow, especially if we get another changeable condition session.
He does. He's got kind of, there's no pressure like we said yesterday. It's, as long as he's not doing silly things and crashing and having a mare, then should be all good. But
Lawson, look, no criticism at all for that. Criticism for Magnussen.
Yeah.
Re-signs, knocked out again, another poor qualifying from him. Have Haas gone the right direction with these two again for next year? That was the one sort of, I suppose, potential from both of our thinking when we looked to 2024 driver lineups was Magnussen and whether his seat would be up for grabs. But they've locked him in, I would say, relatively early. Knocked out in Q1, Hülkenberg managed to get out. This is the same trend again.
Yeah, and the person that does seem to be under pressure is Zhou Guanyu, who's beaten Bottas in qualifying. And yeah, he's been knocked out, but he's ahead of Bottas, which I personally think if Zhou Guanyu loses his seat, it's very harsh.
Agreed.
Because, yeah, he's done a good job alongside Bottas, who I know
is 19th.
Exactly.
Bottas is technically last, let's say that, because Lawson...
Yeah.
If Ricciardo was in that car, he was not qualifying 20th.
No.
Bottas was the last of the experienced drivers, experience meaning more than one race under their belt.
Yeah.
What is he doing?
I know. I don't know.
This is a guy that used to out-qualify Hamilton sometimes on his day.
Yep.
If we're going to talk about who should lose their seat at Alfa Romeo, if there has to be someone, it's going to be Bottas. But I think the problem around Zhou is there's a lot of talk around the finances.
Yeah.
Formula One is run on money, as we all know. Let's move to Q2 then, and the track was getting drier, but it was still intermediates. And the big shock was Lewis Hamilton not making it through to Q3, and he struggled a lot, both in Q1 and Q2, with just cars in front of him, blocking, so on and so forth. The one that was spoken about was the Tsunoda potentially blocking, and then Hamilton, I think, gave him 6 back on the next lap. Yeah, he's going to have a really difficult race from 13th around Zandvoort. The other drivers out were Stroll, Gasly, Tsunoda and Hülkenberg. Tsunoda doing an okay job, I think. there was talk about Danny Rick getting into the top 10 or looking like he would get into the top 10 with his pace from practice and whatever. Or I know there was lots of things flying around about the potential of that AlphaTauri. So Tsunoda not anything to really get excited about. Hulkenberg, you wondered maybe whether there'd be a bit more in him considering his qualifying performances this year.
And it's his dream conditions. He loves it, but sadly not. It's another weird Formula One weekend where we don't actually really know the form because quali's been, complete, well, not washout, but unusual conditions. A lot of cars, Ferrari, where it seemed like they were set up for kind of drier conditions.
They were set up for a completely different circuit.
Yeah, turn one, oh my God, the amount of times they just went straight on. It was like watching a replay 1,000 times. It was insane. It
was great. It was great to watch. Thanks for bringing that up, Tommy. But they did make it through to Q3. And who else made it through to Q3? Logie Bear, Logan Sargent, Tom Bellingham. What do you have to say to this man?
Well done, Logie. Yeah, he did a good job to make it through.
And then binned it.
And then binned it. We'll get into that. But the fact that, he's made it through, but then Albon was so quick. And, he's...
Yeah, he scraped through to Q3, but was still nearly 8 tenths behind his teammate, which I think more showed the potential of that Williams, especially in the hands of Alex. But, we'll get to that right now. Q3 then, and Logan Sargent decided to throw it in the wall.
Didn't fancy Q3.
No,
I've made it.
I've had a taste of this, don't like it. Too much driving. And, of course, that caused a relatively long red flag, which... then dried the track out a bit too much, I think maybe. Just wanted that kind of slippery conditions all the way to the end. At least I did, because that's when you get the differential and perhaps even a crazier grid than maybe what we got.
Yeah, it was so dry at the end, thanks to not just the one red flag.
That is a horrible segue. So the second red flag of Q3 happened. Can't remember what actually happened.
Who was it?
Don't want to talk about it. Yeah, there was a red flag. That's all that matters, really. Max was on pole the end.
Go on.
Okay, fine. So, the session resumed. And Charles Leclerc decided that he wanted to take probably about 20 mile an hour too quick, too much, into, I don't know what corner number that is, turn 7, turn 8, something like that.
Yeah.
Ran wide, went onto the wet stuff, and then threw himself into the wall. Which, to be honest with you, had been coming the entire weekend with the amount of lockups, near misses, everything else that happened. I was waiting for it, and it eventually happened. If anything, I'm actually celebrating the fact that Charles Leclerc made it through to Q3.
Wow. The Ferrari guys had so many moments, didn't they, all weekend, really. We've seen this a lot with Charles Leclerc. He is brilliant, and it's part of why he's so good is his unbelievable speed, and that's why he can somehow pull out a pole position in a Ferrari that probably shouldn't get a pole position. But then the other side of it is, he's pushing so hard that he does crash more than others. It's not really...
It's not his best season.
No, he's not having...
At Mal Isepo, how is Matt doing after quali? So how would I sum up my emotions?
It's going to be another red flag, surely. There'll be another red flag here. We're going to see a red flag dropped. Here we go again to Charles Leclerc through turn 9.
And I always say that my expectations for them are so low that we take a Q3 at this rate. You know what I mean? We take a Q3 and we'll see what happens in the race. But it honestly, the downfall has been quite dramatic. So that's good. Let's move on from Ferrari and talk about Max Verstappen taking pole by half a second. We said, it's a bang of quali. It's always Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
Inevitable.
He sure is.
Just does his thing in any condition, snow, rain, thunder, whatever there is. There was literally
There was
thunder.
Actually. That scared the life out of us.
Yeah, the fork of lightning. And we were like, the weather gods, here they come. Maybe they're about to rustle up something. Nope, Max Verstappen.
And Max
pole.
went, good, I'll be on pole by even bigger margin than, which is true. We've seen it every session that we've had rain, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that's been the case.
Yes, I believe Max has done almost everything, apart from a couple of pole positions, what, for Perez and George Russell?
And Charles, yeah, being here at the Dutch Grand Prix, the crowd are unbelievable. Like the roar when Max put it on pole was quite something.
So Max was amazing, as we know, but the star of qualifying, if we're thinking of anyone other than Max, is of course Alex Albon in a glorious P4. It's a sensational performance, if you ask me. He looked good throughout the entirety of quali.
My word, what a turnaround from Williams to be that team that were just, you know, the butt of every joke. And now, yeah, Alex Albon putting it on the second row is unbelievable, really.
Question at Jones RF873. Can Albon challenge for a podium, or is it about keeping position for him? I think he genuinely could challenge for a podium tomorrow. I think that they've got solid pace. That, you know, they're fighting amongst McLaren, Mercedes, Aston Martin, Ferrari, 4 different teams. Well, sorry, 5 different.
6 different teams.
6 different teams in the top 6.
That's wild, isn't it?
That is crazy.
I mean, Albon, yeah, he does genuinely have a chance, right? Because like, Williams hard to overtake, and it's Zandvoort. So realistically, you know, if he can get a good start, maybe past Russell, is going to be very hard to overtake.
Final question comes in from RJA Muskins. What to do with Perez? 1.3 seconds behind, and behind a Williams.
It's almost just normal, though.
No, but this is crazy. That gap is outrageously bad. 1.3 seconds behind your teammate, around a 1 minute 10 lap.
Yeah, that is incredibly poor.
I'm starting to believe he won't be there next year. Perez he's not performing at a Bottas level.
No, that's what they need, yeah.
Perez is not even close to Lando Norris in second. Every week at the moment, it's a recovery drive, and it constantly carries on. There's no signs of it stopping. Like, there was a gap for Perez to slot into.
Half a second.
Half a second between Verstappen and anyone else, and he couldn't get within 1.3.
Yeah, it's not good.
It really does bode the question how patient are Red Bull going to be, because I don't think they will be. Let's remember, this is Red Bull.
It's kind of demoralising for Perez, and just shows that what a weird situation. Actually, now I think about it, you completely flipped of Alex Albon was in the Red Bull getting completely demoralised by Verstappen, and everyone was going, oh, Albon's absolutely useless. Perez was in that racing point performing unbelievable drives. Everyone's like, now they've switched, and now the whole narrative have swapped between them, which just shows that, I mean, that kind of also answers the question of why Albon shouldn't go back to Red Bull. Something's not working.
Something isn't working, and it's a constant trend of that second driver's seat not working. So I'm not blaming Perez as such, but I think there is something there that maybe needs tweaking from Red Bull's side. But look, they've got Max who can win the championship on his own. So it's quite a nice position to be in, isn't it? So that is about it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this qualifying roundup. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.